Eyston, how do you think this new conning tower device evolved by our racing department will affect your driving?
I think I've studied the problem fairly intensely, and I've sat in the car and I've evolved a harness to keep me down from touching the top. I think I've got plenty of light to see, and I think it will be very satisfactory. Before we go, Sir William, I'll just show you how we get in.
Rather a tight fit.
It is rather. There's plenty of room when you get inside. This car actually put up an official speed of 119.5 miles an hour on Pendyne's hands last February. But I'm not content with this. I think that it is possible to reach 120 miles an hour and slightly over, and I'm taking the car out for that purpose.
Goodbye, old chap.
Now that the conning tower is on, I can see that it's very satisfactory. I have perfect vision on all sides, and I don't think I shall suffer from the fumes. It is intended to put little holes in the front for breathing, and at the back, slots, in case there should be any fumes.
I have already offered my congratulations to George Eyston through British Movietone News, and it now only remains to show you how he improved on Bluebird's speed. This is the first authentic film to reach England off the run at Bonneville Flats, in which Thunderbolt averaged 311 miles per hour. It's all over, and a new record is established. It's great to have accomplished what you set out to do. Well done, George. Hearty congratulations to my old friend George Eyston, who is now the new land speed record holder. If anyone had to beat my record, and of course all records are made to be broken, I cannot think of anyone to whom I would rather give place. But what matters most is that the record is still held by Great Britain.
Okay, this side. All right.
The baby car of 8 horsepower and under is the most popular in this country. It was introduced first by the British manufacturer, and now the world today knows what it can do. It's a significant fact that the British manufacturer was the first to do over 100 miles an hour with a baby car.
Captain G.E.T. Eyston, at the wheel of his saloon car, which is fitted with the omnibus type of heavy oil engine, succeeds at Brooklands in setting new records for this class. For the flying kilometre, he averages 104.86 miles per hour, his fastest run being 106.65. For the flying mile, he averages 101.98 miles per hour.
Here is a car which runs on fuel oil. It is the fastest of its kind in the world. Today I have driven it on Brooklands track, and it has achieved a speed of over 106 miles an hour. Incidentally, the fuel oil engine is the most economical one to run. The fuel consumption is so low that on my record run today at Brooklands, it only cost me threepence. The weather conditions were extremely bad, and I fully anticipate that a little later it will be possible to travel with an oil engine at nearly 2 miles a minute.
The Brooklands 200, however, is a tortoise race to George Eyston. Driving his car Thunderbolt on the salt flats at Utah, he smashes his own record. He averages 345.49, beating his previous best, here illustrated, by 33 miles an hour. In the same time that a runner covers 100 yards, Captain Eyston can drive a mile. Is there any limit?
I'm very pleased to have just beaten the world's hour record, having covered nearly 131 miles in the hour.
At Brooklands, prior to the Empire Trophy race, Earl Howe, supported by Sir Malcolm Campbell, unveils a tablet to the late Sir Henry Birkin.
To one of the finest sportsmen and one of the best of good fellows that ever stepped.
The Emir of Transjordania arrives to start the race. Off. This year, the racing is on a handicap basis, and the total distance to be covered is 300 miles, involving 100 circuits over a specially prepared course, which includes snake and hairpin bends. The flames are shooting out of the exhaust of Maserati number 51, driven by Whitney Straight. George Eyston wins in his MG. Here he is.
I've been racing for a considerable time, and it's the first time I've had real luck.
At Salt Lake, on the new arena of speed attempts, George Eyston, who accompanied Sir Malcolm Campbell to America, sets out to reduce the records for 10 miles, 1 hour, and many other times and distances. The 10 miles record, which Eyston now raises by 3 miles an hour to 167 miles, was previously set up by Wizard Smith in New Zealand. The other records were recently established by the American D.A. Jenkins. American officials and spectators have a cheer and handshake of congratulation for the successful Englishman.
George Eyston has gone to Utah in pursuit of the land speed record, and I wish him all the luck in the world. He's a great sportsman and deserves every success. Now let's have a look at his car, which is about to follow him. It's an enormous vehicle having 8 wheels and 2 engines of 12 cylinders each, with a total of 5,000 horsepower, twice the horsepower I used. 2 pairs of wheels are in front, the other 4 are on the back axle. These flaps on the tail of the car act as air brakes and are intended to slow the speed down from 350 to 300 miles per hour, after which the hydraulic brakes are used. Utah is an ideal place for speed records, and if the surface of Bonneville Flats has not been too cut up by bad weather, Eyston has a grand chance of topping that 301 which I reached in 1935. Good luck to him.
It's Steve's farewell day as a jockey, and the little wizard of the turf appears at Manchester with everybody hoping that his career will end amid a blaze of glory and winners. But alas, it was not to be. The November handicap with 31 runners was won by Solitaire, and all the shouts of "Come on, Steve" could not drag a Styanax to a place. But Steve won't worry so very much. The victor of 6 derbies is becoming a trainer, and on the race cards there will still appear the name Mr. Stephen Donoghue.
Lots of people pick the derby winner with a pin. Well, this method doesn't always work, so I went down to 1 or 2 stables to see how the candidates themselves are getting on. If I could spot the winner, all the better. And if not, there's no finer sight in the world than Newmarket Heath, bright and early on a fine May morning. On the Berry side, we were just in time for a strip gallop. But the trainer on his hack is the only man who knows what weight they're carrying this morning. Part of morning exercise is merely walking round, and this gives us a chance for a closer look. This is Jack Jarvis's string, and the first is Vesperian. Then Admiral's Walk, owned by Sir John Jarvis, a lovely chestnut colt by Hyperion, second in the Guineas. And the Derby favourite, Lord Rosebery's Blue Peter, winner of the 2,000 guineas. At the famous Freemason Lodge, where Captain Boyd Rochford has his training stable, his string is just entering the yard for the most important event in the horse's day, breakfast. And let's get a look at 1 or 2. Grand Union, 4th in the Newmarket Stakes. Casanova, another chestnut by Hyperion, and just the kind for Epsom. Hypnotist. Now here's a chance for a double. His American owner, Mr. Woodward, has already won the Kentucky Derby. Then Signal Light, another fairway colt, winner of the Craven Stakes. And Diadoc with his trainer, Captain Boyd Rochford, and he seems a bit of a favourite of the captains. He's a Blandford colt descended from the famous Diadem. Next day, we went down to Wiltshire, to Blueberry, to see Rogerton Castle and the greatest Epsom specialist that ever lived, Steve Donoghue, who has ridden the winners of 6 derbies. Few jockeys have ever established the sympathy between themselves and their mounts, but Donoghue did. Just look at him and Rogerton Castle together now. And And here's the favourite again with his trainer Jack Jarvis, Blue Peter. He's proud of his position. Will I win? Well, it won't be for want of trying. You want the winner? So do I. Well, you can't do better than get it straight from the horse's mouth.
Only 8 horses are running in the Ostend Grand International. Eyston, Lord Woollavington's colt and runner-up in the Derby, is hot favourite. They're off on a race worth £6,000, run over 1 mile 3 furlongs on the beautiful course near the sea. The finish proves a great triumph for British jockeys. First, Gordon Richards on Eyston. Second, Steve Donoghue on Admiral Drake. Third, Freddie Fox on Rentonmark.
Mr. Cobb wins.
This is the first British Empire Trophy race and the hardest race I've ever taken part in. I'm very lucky to win.
The Easter race meeting at Brooklands is always a tremendous draw, and a big throng of keen motorists packs into the course for a great day's sport. The event of the day is John Cobb's attack on the lap record of 137.96 miles per hour. Driving his huge 400 horsepower Napier Railton at terrific speed against a strong wind, Mr. Cobb sets a new mark of 139.71 miles per hour. Racing drivers line up for the fastest and most thrilling of all long-distance track events, the 500-mile race at Brooklands. Unusual excitement is added to the sensational contest by the appalling weather conditions, as the racing cars tear around at breakneck speed through a sea of mud and water. High-speed wheel changing. Cobb, who is unable to hold his car on the treacherous track, decides to retire. Freddie Dixon, number 33, takes the lead and wins at the terrific speed of 104.8 miles an hour. Here he is, covered with glory and mud, Amphibia's hero of the 500-mile splash. With the smaller cars already tearing round the track, John Cobb, the back marker, in his giant Napier Railton, number 42, gets away in the 500 miles race at Brooklands. It's the world's fastest long-distance race, and the trophy is one of the most coveted in the sport of motor racing.
Freddie Dixon, last year's winner, is at the wheel of his Riley, number 21. Earl Howe, number 35, is driving a Bugatti. Number 24 is another Riley driven by Fairfield. And there goes Oliver Bertram in a Barnato Hassan Special, number 41, making a great challenge to John Cobb. After Bertram has fallen out, it's John Cobb all the way, keeping up the amazing speed of 121.28 miles per hour, a record. He speaks for himself and his fellow driver, Rose Richards.
Well, we've been trying to win this race for 7 years. Although we've been knocked about a bit today, we're at last successful and we're very pleased indeed. That's all we've got to say, isn't it? Shut up. Shut up.
Among the many attractions of Brooklands holiday meeting, the greatest interest is focused on Mr. John Cobb's new Napier Railton car, built specially for Brooklands. Mr. Cobb's car is out on the track now and overtaking all his competitors.
Old Glory and the Union Jack decorate the bonnet of John Cobb's car, if you can call it a bonnet. The body is all one piece, and is manhandled like a giant centipede. It fits over the chassis and completely encloses it except for one aperture, where room is left for the driver.
We're just off to Salt Lake City, where I'm going to make an attempt on the world's land speed record, which I hope will be successful.
Sir Malcolm Campbell expects John Cobb to make a big advance on the existing record. Good luck to him on Salt Lake.
I am very pleased to be the first to achieve 2 miles a minute with the baby car on Moleary track.
On streamlining depends John Cobb's hopes of bettering George Eyston's land speed record. When the body is placed on his giant car, Cobb gets into his seat from a springboard. He has to be very careful not to make even the smallest dent, which would interfere with the streamlining effect. Then he's off. Unofficially, he reaches about 325, but he may reach any speed at any moment. Meanwhile, I must hand over to Alan Harland and Sports. George Eyston at Salt Lake is going out after the land speed record held by our editor since 1928. His huge racer Thunderbolt is being tuned up for her trials on Bonneville Flats. Her enormous gallonage of petrol is being pumped into her, and the 16 tyres are being thoroughly tested for their debut on salt. Sir Malcolm Campbell has said on this screen that the dried salt surface has added a new lease of speed to record attempts. This is borne out by Thunderbolt's first results. She exceeded Bluebird's record of 301, but the figures of 309.1 miles an hour couldn't be registered as official because more than an hour intervened between the two stipulated runs of 1 measured mile in each direction. George Eyston at Utah. Sir Malcolm Campbell, so long the land speed record holder, will describe his successor's new record.
Well, you can see Eyston in his Thunderbolt gathering speed after his push-off start. Bonneville salt flats have given a new range to land speeds. And today, as George propels his huge car along the black guiding line, he is raising the record far above what was thought possible in the old days of Daytona. The car is painted black to be properly recorded by the electric eye of the timing gear. On one occasion, the timing apparatus failed, but today it registers, and the record is lifted to 345.5 miles an hour. It's an achievement on which I would have liked to have been the first to congratulate my old friend George.
Our editor, Sir Malcolm Campbell, starts the big race at Brooklands. It's the famous 500, but instead of miles, it's kilometres this year. The heavily handicapped John Cobb, number 30, in his giant Napier Railton, passes car after car and goes on to win at an average of 127.07 miles an hour.
And here's the first picture of John Cobb actually smashing the world's land speed record in Utah. His first run is good, then back he roars, flying over Salt Lake in a blinding burst of speed. His small car has achieved its magnificent purpose, and the dish cover body is removed so that John Cobb may be extricated. His two runs work out at an average of 350.2 miles an hour, so he captures the coveted record and exchanges congratulations with Reed Railton, the designer. For one day the record stood, then George Eyston recaptured it.
Speed attempts at Pendown again, this time with a heavy oil engine similar to those used in Britain's buses, and George Eyston at the wheel. Movietone follows the speed car, christened the Flying Spray, and because this is only a trial, we are able to trail Eyston for a considerable distance. The trial was not a success, and further attempts are to be postponed until the autumn so that the gear ratio can be changed.
This is John Cobb at speed in his Railton Special on the Salt Flats at Bonneville, Utah. What's his speed? Oh, a mere 334 miles an hour. He was only practicing for the attempt on his own land speed record of 368. Yes, when John Cobb drives a car at 5.5 miles a minute, he's not going all out. This is the house
Cameras down. No snapping of cameras.
All right, Captain. I'm glad to have set up a new land speed record this morning when we went both ways on the measured mile and kilometre at an average, I should think, of over 157. The car ran beautifully, and the morning was lovely, and the course was good.
Listen, supposing... All right.
I'm glad to have set up a new land speed record this morning on the Bonneville Salt Flats, Utah. The morning was fine and the car went splendidly, and I think the course is the best in the world.
It was at the parish church, Esher, that the funeral of John Cobb was held. Among the mourners present were Earl Howe and Lieutenant Colonel Goldie Gardner, paying their last tribute to a friend and fellow sportsman. John Cobb, who won the land speed record for Britain and lost his life in striving fearlessly on water, is mourned by countless friends, for he was as unassuming in success as he was courageous of purpose. It was at the famous Cornish resort of St. Ives that the minesweeper HMS Wave, on loan to the fishing protection